Okay, what I'm doing today is I'm gonna go ahead and start the process of putting epoxy coating on this garage floor. Have that Bridgeport mill that I'm showing over there in the corner. Basically, they have a lubrication system that flows down in the ways, and ultimately the lubrication tends to run out on the floor eventually. And so my concern would be having a big area where it's permanently stained as a result of constant exposure to that lubrication. And so anyway, I got a lot of stuff in here, and it's not really reasonable to think that I'm going to be able to push all my tools out of the shop for up to 3 or 4 days and go through this process and then put it back in. So I'm going to do this little area that I have corded off here. I got everything kind of pushed back out and out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'll start by cleaning this floor. I have a cleaner that I'll show you in a minute, and basically what that does is help bring the grease out. And then the next step you're supposed to do is acid etch the floor. And what that does is it takes the top layer off, because when they install the cement, what they do is they trowel over it and it makes it really smooth. What you want is kind of a porous texture, kind of like when you sand prior to priming to help adhesion. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and start that. Like I said, the first step, we'll get this cleaned up, try to get some of the grease off of the floor, and then we'll acid etch, clean up the acid, and then I'll start laying down the epoxy. Okay, so the first step, like I said, is to use a cleaner degreaser. This is what I use. I got this at Sherwin-Williams. It is H&C concentrated cleaner degreaser. And so this you mix with 50-50 with warm water. And so I put 1 quart, which is about half of that, and then 1 quart of water with it and mixed it up. I did take some like raw... I did take some full strength and put it on some greasy spots. I'll show you those in a second. Okay, so you can see you have a couple areas where I went ahead and put some full strength on here. The stuff doesn't smell that bad. It smells like pine pitch or something. But yeah, I had some like greasy spots from a car in here. It looks way worse than it is, but anyway, so I'm gonna put some of that other stuff down and then scrub it with a scrubber. Okay, I went ahead and like just dumped all this stuff on with a bucket, and I'm gonna use the brush to kind of scrub it in a little bit, and then I'll let it sit. It's noteworthy to add that this is like an ice skating rink now. Apparently this stuff is really slippery, so be careful. All right, I got the degreaser down, and I had to scrub it in a little bit. I added a little water to help migrate it around. Yeah, so I'm just gonna sit here for about 10 minutes, let it soak in. I'm gonna start washing it off. Also, I noticed I got some spots on the floor where like paint drops, stain, and some other stuff that I don't think will come off. A lot of it's like bubbled and proud, and so I'm gonna try to use a scraper to scrape it off so that it's flush. And then I'm gonna use a grinder, and I think I'm gonna manually like sand the floor a little bit just to help open it up, especially in the really smooth spots. Some of it's porous, like up against the wall. I guess they didn't do a good job of troweling it in. I think the acid will do a good job of etching it down and making it porous, but like out here in a couple spaces, like right out in there, the water tends to bead up a little bit, and I think it might be because of the oil, but it's also because it's not very porous. I mean, it's accepting the cleaner. You can see it's darkened, but still you're getting that bead. So I'm gonna go ahead and mechanically abrade that surface so that it's more porous. Actually, just basically for shiny areas, they say to use full concentrate. And then for areas where you have porous concrete already, to mix it 2 to 1, 1 part this, 2 parts water. So I'm gonna spot spray some full strength in certain areas. They tell you to wet the ground first, lightly, basically so you don't pull full strength acid directly on the concrete. But like I said, I'm going to, I'll go ahead and wet it with water, and then use some full strength in certain spots, and then I'll mix it basically at a half 1 to 2 solution, and then spray the rest. Okay, this is the finished product of all that work. This little taped off region here. I just got done cleaning this up and I got everything put up for the night, so that's the reason why I'm taking it from this angle. But yeah, so basically I sprayed all the acid out and cleaned it off yesterday. I came back and mopped it today just to make sure I got everything. And so you can see it's down to this chalky white finish. It's like sandpaper almost. Yeah, so basically really all you did was acid etch this. The idea is to make a good porous surface for the epoxy to be able to cling on to, so that it doesn't start peeling off later. To be honest, it's pretty intensive, this whole process. The way it was described to me was that acid was recommended for homeowners that didn't have access to a grinder, but in retrospect, probably what I should have done is just go down to the tool rental place and rented a floor sander and just started sanding this off manually. I can't imagine it costs that much to rent one of those. It was described as safer to use acid, but like I said, it's kind of variable, the results. I'm pretty happy with this little area. I think for the rest of the garage, when I do it, I'm gonna just go ahead and get a sander. I feel like I could have done this in one day. Let's see, it's Wednesday today, and I've worked on this every day. So like Sunday, I did the degreaser, so you have to do that anyway. And then I came back the next day and did some grinding and stuff like that. And then the next day after that, I did the acid etch. And then today I cleaned it up. So, I mean, it's long and drawn out. Hey, cat. But, yeah. Anyway, this is it. So the next step is going to be the epoxy. I'm going to go ahead and cut this video short, and then I'll make a separate part for the actual epoxy and the application, and I'll link it to this video. Thank you.